Hey, Sunday night.
Welcome
How
to
y'all doing?
Celebrate Recovery on Sunday nights, our online expression from New Heights Church. We just want to say welcome if you're watching. We look forward to, did it start out that way?
Yeah.
I look
Sorry.
pale. That's how I started out.
Oh, man.
I look up when I see that we're about to go online, and I usually say something not nice about myself. I need to be better with that.
Yeah, maybe.
I am a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I struggle, or I'm recovered from the grief of a divorce, poor relationship choices, and the consequences of those choices. And sometimes in mid-January, looking a little pale. My name is Angela.
Oh, hi, Angela. You don't look pale.
Thanks, babe.
I was going to say that pale, but I don't think that would have worked out so well. Anyway, I'm a grateful believer in Jesus. I struggle with drugs, alcohol, lust, food issues. I don't know, probably a list of things, but
Not looking pale, though.
I don't look as pale normally. I get outside, so who's paler? No, I think we look pretty close. I can't tell the difference. And I'm colorblind also. I struggle with color. And my name is Chad.
Hi, Chad. So glad you're here with
Man.
us. Hello to all of you who are watching right now live. We appreciate that you join us. We love just the commentary and the community that you guys have kind of helped us continue. The announcements that we have is that we are still on target for starting back on February 14th. That's Sunday night. We'll be at the club. We will have a service that starts at 6 o'clock. Masks will be required, social distancing in place, and then we will have open share groups that follow. At this point, we will not yet have a meal or childcare, but we do hope to kind of roll out some of those elements. Like every month, we'll roll out a new element until we're back in the swing of things. We're just going to take this kind of slow, but we are excited to be back on February 14th. We will not be having an online service or an in-person service on February 7th. Instead, because we're football fans, we're going to encourage a Super Bowl watch. If you're not a football fan,
In
feel
a safe
free
and
to
sober way.
read a book, have a sip of tea, enjoy,
Take a breath.
take a nap,
Yeah.
do whatever that
Yeah.
you need to, and be ready to tune back in
Man.
the following week in
Great.
person. All right, that's our announcements, really.
That's all we got?
That's all we really got.
All right, sweet. Well, we're excited to do it. Looking forward to it, getting back together, man.
I know.
Yep. I am, I
To
know.
see people in person, I think will be really exciting. I know that every week I usually will see one of our community members, and we saw one actually this weekend. And just seeing his face, I was like, "Oh, it's
Yep.
good to see you." There
Yeah.
is something that I've always appreciated on Sunday nights about getting together and just getting to look the people who I care about in the eyes. And it's just a way to kind of check in and be held accountable and be accountable to those people, vice
Yeah.
versa. And so we're glad that we get to do it again soon.
Yeah, I'm
All
excited
right,
for it.
we're going to read the 12 steps. This is where Chad and I do our best to
Stumble through the 12
literate.
steps. Anyway, here we go.
Okay.
All right.
Are you going? Should we?
I can go first.
Rock,
That's fine.
paper, scissors,
No, that's all
board?
right.
Okay.
I'll just go. Step 1. We admitted we were powerless over our addictions and compulsive behaviors and that our lives had become unmanageable.
For I know that good itself does not dwell in me, that is in my sinful nature. For I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. Romans 7:18. Step 2. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. For it is God who works in you to will and to act according to his
fulfill his
good
good purpose. Philippians 2:13. We messed with them a little bit. We changed the wording just a little bit here.
Slightly.
All right. We made a decision to turn our lives and our wills over to the care of God.
Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Romans
12:1.
1. Remind me, for those of you out here who remember, what did it used to say? It didn't say this is your true and proper worship. It used to say like this is something else. If you remember, you got a
Let me
gold
think.
star
Bodies,
for
let me
tonight.
say, holy and pleasing to God.
This is your, I don't think it's a true and proper. I think when we,
Spiritual act of worship or something
like that.
Yeah.
Feel free to post it if you remember
Great.
the former way, not the old way.
We'll give you a high five.
Step
Like that.
4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Let us examine our ways and test them, and let us return to the Lord. Lamentations 3:40. adjust my chair.
Step 5. We admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs.
Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. James 5:16. Step 6. We were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up. James 4:10.
Step 7. We humbly asked him to remove all of our shortcomings. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just and will forgive us our sins and purify us from all unrighteousness. 1 John 1:9.
Step 8. We made a list of all persons we'd harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Do to others as you would have them do to you. Luke 6:31.
Sorry, I saw something pop. I want to make sure I wouldn't miss anything there on the feed. Anyway, step 9. We made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Therefore, if you're offering your gift at the altar, and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. Luke 6:31.
Step 10. We continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it.
So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. 1 Corinthians 10:12. Step 11. We sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly. Colossians 3:16.
Step 12. Having had a spiritual experience as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Brothers and sisters,
if someone is caught in
don't
a
forget
sin,
the sisters.
I know.
If someone is caught in a sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently.
But watch yourselves, or you may also be tempted. Galatians 6:1.
We did okay.
Man, somebody accidentally said "Go Chiefs" on here. It's weird.
Oh, I don't think
It's
it was
not.
an
It's
accident.
not offensive. That's not offensive.
I think it was actually a request for a blue chip. We'll send you one.
We'll
Amanda.
send a
It's
blue
okay.
chip.
Who are we rooting for?
I mean,
like
we can't
this
really
year-
root for it. Maybe the Saints. I
This
don't
is
know.
when I would like to say, not the
Golly.
Cowboys because they're not in it. I like the Saints. I really do.
Yeah.
I would also like to say that I won my fantasy football league, so I'm content. I mean, if anybody goes at this point, I think it'd just be.
I don't know if we should talk about this because she was actually the commissioner of the league. She put it all together, and the last week she scored 183 points. Like
I chose wisely. That's all. That's what I believe.
she had a player on her bench that had 40 points.
Let's
I'm like,
move
what's
on.
up with this? Something?
We're moving
Somebody
in.
is cheating.
We're
you guys.
moving into the when
Blue
you're
chip
wrong
later, that's
when
all
you're
I'm saying.
wrong for who you put in, you should promptly admit it. I wasn't.
Oh my
We're going to
God.
head into the time of our
Messed
night
up.
when we actually celebrate part of our recovery. If you have any anniversaries, surrender dates, sobriety dates, 30, 60, or 90 days, I know especially during a pandemic, those days did not come easily, and we want to celebrate with you. If you're at 6 months or 9 months, if you're at a year or multiple years, if you feel comfortable and are willing to post it in the comments, we'd love to give you some little praise hands up, say congratulations. We want to celebrate with you just the journey that you've been on and that you're continuing to be on. Maybe you've got one day and that one day matters, and we want to celebrate it with you. Feel free to post it as we kick it over to Justin across town for some worship.
Once was lost, I walked away. The road was dark, I could not see. My hope was gone, the pain was real, but your mercy, you saw my steps, felt my fears, you heard my cry, caught my tears, arms open wide. You ran to me with your mercy. Your mercy, your mercy. I stand before my King and bow my heart to sing. You saved me, you raised me, you died so I could live. No greater love than this, your mercy. You give me life beyond the grave. My deepest shame is cast away. Sing a song that covers me. It's your mercy, your mercy, your mercy. I stand before my King and bow my heart to sing. You saved me, you raised me, you died so I could live. No greater love than this, your mercy, your mercy. Your loving kindness leads me to repentance. Your loving kindness leads me to repentance. Lord, let your kindness lead us to repentance. Lord, let your kindness lead us to repentance. Your mercy, your mercy. I stand before my King and bow my heart to sing. You saved me, you raised me, you died so I could live. No greater love than this, your mercy, your mercy. I stand before my King and bow my heart to sing. You saved me, you raised me, you died so I could live. No greater love than this, your mercy, your mercy. Lord, your mercy, your mercy. I keep fighting voices in my mind that say not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure. Am I more than just the sum of every high and Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. You say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I'm weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, when I don't belong. Oh, you say I'm yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe the only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. Oh, you say I am loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, when I don't belong. Oh, you say I'm yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe. Taking all I have and now I'm laying it at your feet. You'll have every failure, God. You'll have every victory. Oh, you say I am loved and I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong when I think I am weak. You say I am held when I am falling short, when I don't belong. Oh, you say I am yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe. Yes, I believe. Yes, I believe what you say of me. I believe.
Thanks, Justin. You
Excellent
always do
job.
a great job, man. We appreciate
I
you.
just love to
Yeah.
how involved the community is listening and engaged and talking, and just so many people impacted by it. So thank you for everybody participating. I mean, this
Yep.
doesn't work unless you guys tune in and contribute and make this a place where you interact and get fed
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
get ministered to. So thank you, Justin, for what you contribute, and Jennifer too. I got quiet. I thought, oh gosh, Chad's going to be mad at me because when we test the mics, I'm
No,
really
you're fine.
loud,
I can hear you.
even if I'm quiet.
You're good.
Okay, so
I'm
last
mad at you.
week, Chad's going to be very angry.
So angry.
Have you ever seen him? He just starts getting really critical, and no, not at all. That's usually what I do.
We'll be all right.
Last week we started kind of, I want to call it a series, but really just a dialogue is what I want to say that it is, about comfort and validation. We were having this conversation about what it looks like to go back in person, and that we're going to start doing the lessons again in person, and that we have just a little bit more time to kind of go, what is it possibly that we haven't really talked about that is an important topic for people who are in recovery, for people who want to get healthy? Right before the holidays, we brought the PERM series, we call it, the physical health, emotional health, relational health, mental health, spiritual health. And we've really been kind of talking through all of those, not only applying them in our lives in different areas, At church, we're actually doing a spiritual formation series. Both Chad and I have not only joined groups, but are kind of leading some groups on being physically healthy and exercising and eating and right. And as you guys know, I'm really big into making sure people are emotionally healthy. We talk in Celebrate Recovery about making amends with people, forgiveness work, that's relational healthy. I mean, across the board, we have all these things that are important to consider if we want to move our lives out of, from my first night at CR, a life that had become unmanageable, to a life that is healthy. And we believe in the theory of change. We believe that God can heal. We believe that people can go from being not healthy to being healthy. And we want to help people get to that place. And so comfort and validation, we're going to kind of dive right in the idea that most of our, let's start with the hurts, the wounds in our lives, leave us in a place where we have pain, where we have disappointment, where we have feelings that the way God designed us relational is that we need responses in those places, responses from God, responses from others. In order for those places to be healed, we have to acknowledge them, and something has to there has to be an exchange, I want to say an acceptance or a forgiveness or whatever it is in that space. When that doesn't happen, we easily pick up the habits and the hangups. And so it's not just coming to Celebrate Recovery to say, I need to work on my habits and my hangups. These are the things. We do have to kind of go into what are the hurts and what are some of the things that we've used to comfort those, make them feel better, possibly push them down, outperform them. And so kind of a way to consider this is to consider what comforts us in distress. Chad, we joked last week, not like, not getting a comfortable couch and, having some hot chocolate and watching your favorite romantic comedy, although that's really great.
For some people.
For some people. What would yours be? It wouldn't be hot chocolate and romantic comedy. It would be like,
I don't know, something else.
wings in a war movie.
Yeah, something else.
So we're talking about in times of distress, when things get hard, what do you go to for comfort? Or when you are feeling inadequate or shame or not enough, how do you get that validation to feel like you're enough? Kind of the unhealthy ways. And so one of the reasons we kind of wanted to bring this up is if we kind of go backwards into it, we can hopefully land on the other side with what it looks like to do this stuff in a healthy way. So tonight, we're going to kind of glance back. We talk about this all the time. We don't just like to bring up old past stuff to hurt people or to, it's not just for the sake of it. We bring up past stuff because it somehow is interfering with what we want to do in our present. We have stuff that has paralyzed us or stuff that is stuck or there's residue that we have to kind of reflect back and look at. Cut me off at any point if you want to add comments. I'm
just listening to you. I'm I'm following you and tracking. I just think it's hard. It's hard to even acknowledge what we do to kind of keep ourselves comfortable in moments of distress, because our brains we're so wired to avoid that sort of pain. As humans, I mean, I've heard people talk about it. Even as mammals, we really respond to pain, and most of our life, probably why humans are so successful is because we're wired to get away from the hurtful things and find ways to protect ourselves. And while we are designed, I think, created for relationship and to be in community, and honestly, we are basically created to be in families, right? That's how humans survive. And we've talked about that a lot, but that design, it has some tricky little spots to it, right? So the more that I rely on people, the more people can hurt me. The more that I like people, the more that I'm around people, the more that they can kind of impact me in a negative way. So we end up in this weird double bind in a way. Like humanity is kind of this double bind. Like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I know I need people. I know I like and want relationship. I'm drawn to it. But at the same time, I'm in this other boat that says, when I have relationship, it hurts sometimes. And so my gut, my reactions kind of say, hey, protect yourself. And I think for a lot of us, what you're saying about a look back is a lot of us have learned to really protect ourselves, to not let these relationships hurt us the way that they have in the past. And so then our body kind of, it really works on these automatic responses. And so it's hard to even notice,
Yeah, I
Angela,
want to
when,
back
when
up
things
even
go wrong.
before. I
Yeah.
want to back up even before the adult awareness of trying to describe what we go to, because you're right, it is hard. So I want to kind of back up to, if you think about childhood, for most of us, we were raised right in our family of origin. Some of us have family of origin stories that go like, oh, it was, I had a good family, things went moderately good. Some of us have stories that didn't go that way. Some of our stories were there was divorce, there was abuse, there were things that were not pleasing, that were not comfortable.
Yeah.
And so as a young child in our family of origin, we have I think about my daughter, how very closed our view is. We only know our immediate family until we get out and start interacting with others. Maybe we start first interacting with cousins or family members, but a lot of times that family system looks the same. So we can start to believe everyone has the same experience that I have.
Yeah.
But then we go, let's say, to elementary school, church, some sort of community event. We start to hang out with peers. In this coming of age, we start to kind of go, they behave differently than I behave. They respond to things differently than I respond to. Maybe you hang out with your friends around their family. I remember the first time going to a friend's house and her parents were kind of engaging with her in a different way that my parents had engaged with me, in a way that I was like, it wasn't bad. I think it was actually kind of loving and all of them engaging and doing a thing together. And I thought, that's interesting. That's different than what I'm used to. And so whether we realize it or not, we use community, I'm going to call that community, how we interact with others around us, as a way to measure if what we're experiencing is typical. I don't even want to say normal. I just want to say, is what I'm experiencing something so that we can kind of gauge it. Chad likes to use, he said this phrase before, we as humans need feedback. We need to know, am I doing acceptable things? If I get a negative response, I'm going to adjust the things I'm doing because, like he's saying, I want to fit into the pack. And so I explain all that to say we go out as we're at elementary, junior high, high school. Those are the places where we engage with others and start to adjust and start to find things, that make us feel better when we don't feel so great.
Yep.
And B, it's not only the comfort thing, but also we find the things that get us positive feedback. Maybe making good grades is how I got positive feedback, or succeeding or placing at a track meet, or I played an instrument. Playing my instrument with accuracy, I would get a good job. If I didn't play it well, it wasn't great. And so I would practice in private so that I could play at a rehearsal or something like that, or at a concert. And I think about the idea that we are adaptable creatures, and along the journey, we learned, not even consciously, where we write down like, note to self, good grades get me positive praise from my parents. It's not like we took note. Somebody was mean today, and when I came home from school, I just went to my room and, cried or read a book or listened. For me,
Whatever we did.
Music.
Yeah.
I listened to music. Music has been a comfort to my soul. Not always Christian or gospel or worship music. Sometimes it was,
Other music.
love ballads of the 80s or whatever it was,
Yeah.
But there are these things that comfort us that we probably in the developmental process just started adapting, so that now they are second nature to us.
Yeah.
So to say,
They're ingrained, sort of.
yeah, they're
kind of-
just
yeah.
kind of part of our makeup. So now to come in and go, hey, when you're feeling insecure, what is the thing that you go to make you feel more valid? That possibly is an unhealthy thing. And I'm like, I don't even allow myself to acknowledge that I'm feeling insecure. I just go to the striving. Or if I'm feeling distressed, like maybe I'm being disappointed or something isn't going well, what is the thing that I go to for comfort in that? I don't even allow myself to feel comforted. I just go to the fridge. Honestly, it's something I do. And I eat cookie dough. And I'm like, life is better with cookie dough. But it's an unhealthy habit. It really is. And so for me to have to break it down and go, why do I do this? Oh, it's because of this. And so that's how we kind of look back to go, okay, what are some of these things we developed? And then how have they translated as adults?
Yeah. I'm just sitting here thinking about it. And like, you're kind of saying, I want to say two sides of this. So one side is, this is how I learned to go to comfort because it got me through or got me praise or something, like your parents. But there's this other side of it that's also like, you have to have awareness of the need for comfort in some ways. And so what you're saying is both of those things are kind of ingrained. Not only is the response like the pain, you recognize the pain, so there's this automatic like pain response that you don't pay much attention to, probably.
Don't even recognize it. You just kind of quickly jump to that other thing.
And then there's that other thing. It's then now my response to the pain. Like, this is where I go to get the thing dealt with. This is where I go to kind of like solve this internal angst or hurt or whatever that is that's kind of cropping up as we kind of dive into pain or feel pain.
Yeah.
And both of those things, I think this is the thing that makes it the hardest, is they're both so outside of our awareness, especially as kids, right? Especially as kids, we don't really have to think too much about it. We're not making notes, most of us, as an 8-year-old, keeping a journal thinking, well, this is how this went today, and I noticed that I went to cookie dough, or I noticed that my mom gave me a snack when I came home after school was hard, or whatever the thing was.
I want to say something because Chad and I, sometimes I'm like, I wish we could record the conversations we have before the live when we discuss what we're going to discuss, because they're really rich conversations of figuring out.
Sometimes I'm glad we don't record it.
Because when we go back and forth, it's like, wait a minute, are we trying to convey this? Are we trying to convey this? And I was like, the cookie dough idea came up for me, and I went back to, you know, it's interesting. It's not surprising now that I know I go to food when I need comfort, because food was always used to celebrate good things in my family of origin. If we won the game, if somebody graduated, if there was a.
In some ways, it's probably why we married each other. Do you remember
You and
that?
I?
Yeah. Do you remember, there was a post that she posted, I want to say it was like 7 years ago. 10 years ago, I don't even know, it's a long time ago now, where it's like Angela would come in with some like distressing thing and I'd be like, okay, well, how about we go to dinner? And then she'd come in with another distressing thing and be like, okay, well, how about Mexican food? Or you'd come in and I'd be like, well, how about Italian or whatever? And it's like, we both
like,
really
he
kind
gets
of
me.
get
Anytime
through
I'm
it.
distressed,
Yeah.
he feeds me. It's wonderful.
We get through it with chips and queso or
Okay,
something.
but the hard
I don't want
part-
to trigger anybody either, but
The hard part is that when we started as we started to get healthy, we started to realize, can we slow it down enough to know, why is this so comforting? What is it about, not just if I'm thinking about eating healthy food that's fuel for my body that sustains me. Seems like what we're supposed to do, you know.
Yeah.
Instead, I want it to taste good. I want it to be experienced. I want all the things. Something about it makes me feel better. Now, I talked about for a little bit the L&R, the love and relationship side of me, that there are times, even as I can think back as early as late junior high and high school, that if I was feeling insecure, that if I was feeling unattractive, that maybe I would just wear my favorite jeans that I felt I looked the best in, or something, to try to get even one little compliment, like, oh, your hair looks nice, or, oh, you know, those jeans look nice. For some reason, those little compliments made me feel valued when I didn't really have in my own heart value. Instead of going to what I now know is having a solid identity in Christ, and exactly the song Justin just sang, who he says I am, I would almost just automatically do things that kind of boosted me. Now, Chad, the conversation Chad and I had was the fine line between it being an unhealthy strategy and it being a healthy strategy.
I think I need to go to the next slide, don't I?
Possibly.
Yeah, let me go
I
ahead.
forget what the next
wait,
slide
wrong one
is.
here. There we go.
presently how to use community. Okay, so we've looked back at how we kind of developed it. Whether we knew it or not, we were kind of comparing ourselves to our peers to gauge what we needed to do. Now we're saying, welcome to Celebrate Recovery. This is a healthy community where we're all in process. We acknowledge we're in process, and we want to really, in a healthy way, use each other, use relationships, use community. I believe the way God designed us to, as a way to measure, as a way to gauge, are we going in the direction of health, and what does that look like? That means I have to be honest with Chad, with my peers. I remember when we were dating, he was like, okay, this Celebrate Recovery thing there's a trick. You're only being held accountable for what you're willing to be held accountable for. If you're keeping something a secret and you're not telling anybody, you're not being held accountable for that. And I'm like, listen, don't you talk to me about Celebrate Recovery.
Don't poke holes in my theory.
He was spot on. And he actually, because he and I were dating and he was starting to get to really know me, there were a few areas in my heart where he saw that others didn't see. And he was like, look, if you're going to do this thing, then do this thing. And I'm like, you know what? It hurt, but it was healthy. And he was right. Sometimes we have to be honest about where we are. And that's a terrifying thing to do, to be
hard, man.
Open share or step study and say, hey, I want to share my thoughts, but I'm worried that you're going to judge my thoughts, so I'd rather not share them. Then they never get measured so that we can go, hey, here's where those thoughts are on the map of health or unhealth. And all it means is let's point you, let's find out where you are, and let's move you to the direction that you want to go to.
Yeah.
Instead, what happens is we're like, oh, that's really unhealthy, or that's scary, or that I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to respond. That's the other part that you mentioned earlier about how scary it is with having to use other humans. I want CR to be like this. We try to cultivate this specifically at RCR, but others too, to say, can we have grace? It's a hard thing to give and to receive in this process that says, I am a fallible human. I will fail you. I will disappoint you. I will let you down. You are in process. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to come out with too much. It's going to freak me out, or come out with not enough. It's going to be like, there's no trust. We have to give each other grace to go, okay, let's move together. Okay, how'd that go? And it's kind of like this waltz that has to have a pace and a rhythm. And as a community, we have to be okay. It's interesting to me when I see a newcomer come in, how everybody just kind of adjusts to, is the newcomer coming in hot? Is the newcomer coming in reserved? What does it look like? And how do we adjust to help that person come along their process? And then here's a great thing to consider. Probably that person's process is going to impact us if we let it, us meaning people who have been here longer. Just because someone's brand new doesn't mean they don't have something valuable that the way God does it is going to change my life. I can think about countless people who came in years after us who have impacted us in a big way. Yeah. Okay, you...
I mean, I've had like 40 thoughts.
Go.
No, I don't even know what they are. It's funny. But I'm like, no, I mean, and again, I'm trying to just like simplify it a little bit just to say, so we got two sides of it. We kind of have this acknowledgement of the pain, which a lot of us have found we get away from quickly. Then we've got this, what do we do with that pain, which is kind of how we respond or seek comfort. And then you're saying, hey, this is normally established in large part in childhood, but it's really solidified as we go throughout life. Like we really get this kind of concrete response that's kind of redundant. We keep trying this over and over and over, and it never really works is the other thing, because no matter how much, whatever the thing is that you do, whether it's, kind of trying to validate myself through work or my own productivity or money or something, I mean, like, through success, or education, I've got a PhD, maybe that'll make me feel better, right? Whatever the thing is we're trying to use to validate ourselves, that generally it doesn't solve it. Like it doesn't get us where we want to go. And so you're saying then as an adult, what we really are trying to get people to do is, and again, I'm kind of restating it, but I'm just trying to put it into simple pieces, but it's like, so then as an adult, it's like, now here we are and we're saying, hey, whatever we've been chasing or whatever we've been using is not working, and we're kind of in a bad place, and we kind of recognize we're in a bad
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
So we come to a place like Celebrate Recovery. I mean, most people that come to Celebrate Recovery, somebody gave you either a lot of feedback or a lot of push, or maybe you found it on your own. So I'm not trying to say that nobody never comes on their own, right? Nobody never. I don't think that's good grammar. But a lot of times we come here because like life has shown us that what we're doing isn't working.
Yeah.
So we walk in the door, and it would be nice if we could give you, hey, here's 3 steps and 5 tips, and then here's the rest of the 12 steps, and do those things, and then you'll be fine. But that's not really how it works, because we're really trying to
7 days to a healthier you.
Yeah, we're really trying to reorganize
Yeah.
a pattern in our lives that was, hey, I'm going to be self-reliant and dependent on myself to deal with my pain, which I've learned, again, we learn these patterns somewhere.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're like, hey, I've got this thing that happens to me. Can I trust somebody with it a little bit? Can I trust a sponsor with it a little bit? And a lot of times that looks like we kind of back into it. I think especially in Celebrate Recovery, because we generally address the habit. A lot of times people come in with a habit. And I love that Celebrate Recovery says hurts and hangups also, right? Because I think the habits are formed out of hurts. The habits are formed out of like responses to our hurts. So I think it's important that we recognize the habit. Sometimes the habit will kill you, right? So it is important to stop the habit sometimes, or it'll wreck your life or send you to jail or whatever the thing is. But we want to back into it and say, hey, can we start to share the hurt? Can we start to really do something different with our pain? And that's why it's important to have the acknowledgement of both pieces that you spoke of in the beginning, because it's like that first part of saying, hey, I realize this is painful. That's really a hard step to take if you've always just dealt with it.
And here's what I want to talk about too when we say this. First, I want to acknowledge the little banner that we have below and what it says. As adults, we have a responsibility to find out what good and healthy practices are. I mean, I'd love it if everyone on the planet took that responsibility, but not everyone does. But you who have chosen to attend a recovery program have said, I either am being forced to acknowledge or I choose to acknowledge that something in my life isn't going well. And now I want to know. It's not like people come here and say, I don't want to know what I need. People come and say, tell me what I need. And so here come the lessons, here come sponsors, here come accountability, we give tools on a regular basis. So I'll be a year or 2 or 3 down the road with somebody and somebody will say, I just don't feel like I'm changing. And I'll say, okay, what does your daily Bible reading and time with God look like? Well, I don't really do that. Okay, what does it look like? How have your step studies been going? What did it look like? Well, I never really finished a step study. I didn't share my inventory. Okay, what does it look like when you're having a hard day to reach out to your accountant? Well, and I go, okay, here is the challenge. At some point, in order to get healthy, we have to start digging in, or we'll stay the same. But it's hard because we don't know that unpredictable thing that is, what is this going to look like and how painful is this going to be, kind of prevents us. And so some of these practices are kind of tricky. Questions like, what are you in denial about? I remember the sarcasm of my first lesson. Like, if I knew what I was in denial about, it wouldn't be denial.
I'm still sarcastic about it.
Yeah,
I'm like, how do I know? How do I know what I'm in denial about?
So some of the questions, I'm like, okay, these are cliche and I'm frustrated. But to really go, what Chad is saying, if I ask you, when you're in distress, what do you turn to feel better? Can you answer it? And can you go back and see that that's a pattern? I think about when I was a kid, if we ask this question a lot, go back to the first time you really felt distress in your life. Maybe you're 3, maybe you're 5, maybe you're whatever it is. There's this memory that I have as a kid. I was in elementary school, and based on where we lived in the school, I kind of remember it was probably in the 3rd grade, and I got made fun of. I got really bullied, actually, even specifically about my faith, but got bullied, came home and said to my mom, I had a really bad day at school. This is what happened. And I remembered I've shared this before. My mom's response was, everybody gets bullied, and some people who get bullied will turn around and, be like the presidents of companies. You got to use that to be stronger. And it was just kind of this atta-girl speech that was like, in my mind as an adult looking back, I go, she was just trying to, build strength and build tenacity. And and tell me to not let somebody else affect me. But what didn't happen was she didn't say, I'm so sorry, that's so hard. I've been bullied before and I hate that for you. What can I give you a hug? Can I let you know I'm here? There was not nurturing or comfort or anything like that. And in that moment, I remember thinking, I don't want to be talked out of my pain by my mother. She's just not somebody I can take it to. As a matter of fact, I don't really have anybody that I can take this to. And so I really learned how to kind of just absorb my own distress and not really let anybody into it. Cut to 30, 40 years later, self-reliance is one of my biggest character flaws. To let somebody have that pain with me or to be in my grief is a really hard thing for me to do. And so part of this process is to kind of acknowledge, if I'm in distress, what do I do? And is it a healthy practice? Is it a healthy practice for me to just absorb all my own pain and never take it to anyone? No, I've learned that. Now that I know what healthy looks like, it's my responsibility to start moving in that direction, to start trying to invite people into those painful places, to try allow somebody to respond. Is everybody that I invite in going to get it right? No, they're human also, which means I have to have grace in the process. I have to kind of go, okay, I feel like this person cares and their motive is right. That means I have to show sometimes grace if they don't get it right or respond to their need that might come up. This is a bumpy, it is not a perfect process. It's a messy, hard, painful process. That's, I think, one of the reasons why it's so hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can keep moving. I like it. Keep pushing the wrong button. There we go. But
this is something you talked about too, so I want you to really acknowledge it.
All right. I'm going to read it real quick. Dangers of both sides of striving. When we move from unhealthy comforts and validation to healthy forms of comforts and validation, it can be a tricky transition. And I think it is a tricky transition because just because we're not doing the thing that we did, maybe the thing that gets us in jail, right? It doesn't mean that we're going to know how to still, or how to like let somebody into our own pain. So whether it's like I'm using drugs or I'm working out 24/7, whatever I'm going to, if I'm still not letting other people into my process, if I'm still not receiving comfort and validation and kind of getting feedback from the world around me, then I'm probably still just lost in some form of unhealthy coping in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Whether and that you see this quite a bit, especially in rehabs, and a lot of times people go to other unhealthy things, but like somebody will come in and they're struggling with this drug and then they leave and they don't do that drug, but then they start drinking.
Yeah.
Or they start using some other drug, or they, find some, maybe it's a relationship. I've seen that also, where, and then they lose that relationship and then they use the drug again, or whatever the thing is.
I think about even the example I gave of getting compliments or being validated by my appearance. Well, then I started to get healthy and realized that's not a healthy practice. But then let's say I was just like doing a good job at my work and somebody says, hey, good job, I'm really proud of you. I would kind of be like, I don't know if that's okay. Like, am I allowed now to appreciate if somebody says good job or if somebody says, hey, whatever. So there is a healthy way to kind of step into some of these same places. There's a healthy exercise. There's a healthy compliment. There is a healthy version
of all of this.
Of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
I believe that even in my mind and love and relationship and sex, we've talked about some of these things before. God designed so much of this stuff for good, and sin and unhealth and broken people perverted it and tainted it and used it in ways that we kind of didn't know what we were using, or how it was like a tool that we didn't know how to use properly. And so part of this recovery journey is really learning how to use tools effectively the way they were designed instead of the way we think they were designed.
Which I'm going to click over to the next slide real quick. But really what you're saying, and I mean, you guys, this is not easy. I mean, we're saying, inviting God in. And me and Angela had a little bit of a discussion about this.
Not
a
in
very
a
calm
way, but
discussion. But it's like, but we're like, whenever you first start out in recovery, sometimes it's not the thing that you learn to do, right? We don't know how to invite God in. We don't know how to ask God for his feedback on our life, and much less receive comfort from it.
I didn't trust that I could even hear God accurately, or that was such a foreign idea to me.
Yeah. Well, and inviting others in, probably for a lot of us, the times we've invited people in or taken their feedback, we probably have been hurt by that, especially
Judgment,
if you're struggling
rejected.
with something that got you to CR.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, inviting God in, inviting others in, those might be the scariest things that you ever do. It's
Yeah.
really hard to open yourself when you haven't known that that's a safe thing to do.
Yeah.
And maybe, I mean, no, not even for very good reasons you have learned to protect yourself. There's been lots of pain probably in your life. There's been lots of pain in my life. There's been lots of pain in Angela's life. We've learned that other people aren't safe. And so when we say these things, we're not just saying in a cliche way, oh yeah, just invite God and invite some other people in and you'll be fine. I mean, that's not what we're saying.
No.
We're saying this is going to be hard.
Yeah.
This is going to be hard. This isn't an easy process. We're saying, but it is how it works, though.
Yeah.
It is how you're designed. It is how your brain will get better at being in recovery. and
Relationship
how you'll enjoy it.
is required
Yeah.
for this process.
Yeah.
And I would just say too, you know, in the process of wanting grace as you open up about your story, being able to try to, it's that do to others as you would have them do to you, try to give grace to the people listening. I have to constantly remember for the person who hears my story for the first time that it's a hard story, and I have to give them grace to process it, to take it in, to respond to it. It might not go as well as I want it to. Some of these stories that we share that are our own stories might resonate with someone else, trigger someone else, who knows? Part of this process is sharing our brokenness with each other. And it is scary, but also it makes us grow. It makes us understand our humanity. It makes us understand, most importantly, our need for a savior, which is what this is really all about.
And again, we're not trying to make light of this, but this is the road.
Yeah.
Right? This is the way. And man, it's tough. It's tough to do it, but we're just saying, let God into that space, right? Find one person that you feel safe with, whether it's at CR or in a healthy community. You know, I want to say test that though. I mean, when I first started recovery or when I first started trying to get healthy, you know, I knew that I was bad at picking people, right? I was always going to sit down and
Not
ask.
all people.
Well,
You picked
but
me.
eventually I got better at it. But I know that like if I go out somewhere, I'm going to end up sitting next to the people that are maybe not so good in that crowd, or I used to not anyway. And so I think there's an intentionality that says I'm going to choose the person that I think might have it together. Maybe not the person I naturally would go to, but the person that maybe is where I want to be. And so I think it's worth asking that question and saying, if I was healthy, if I was going somewhere healthy, who would I be? Who would I want to ask for feedback, for responsiveness? And I want to just say it takes perseverance too. I went through, I think, 2 sponsors before I landed on a sponsor.
Yeah.
And so this isn't easy, but I do want to encourage you to do it and to open yourself up and try to get some feedback in the places where you've always just kind of handled it on your own.
We could talk about this and will continue to. Next week, we're going to break down really how to identify specifically maybe what one of those go-to comforting or go-to validating things is. And then once you identify it, how do you go into it? How do you do these very things we're asking? Tell someone about it, talk through your process, understand how the process affects you, invite God into it. We want to try to make those more tangible and not just overview, but we're just kind of slowly walking from, hey, consider this, now how we got here, and now what do we need to do with it? And so we look forward to you tuning in again next week as we continue this hard, but I think necessary topic.
Same bat time, same bat
We're
channel.
throwing-
Oh, wait, no, that's right.
We're throwing the flag on it. And so this is the part in our night where we kick it back over to worship. But if let's say this is impacting you, let's say something about this is just kind of sinking in and you're starting to realize maybe this isn't something I've been aware of. Maybe I do recognize that I still go to the wrong things for comfort, or I use validation to feel better about myself instead of going to God and asking him who I am. Or maybe it's still really hard for me to invite others in just because of my experiences. And this is something that you want to start to try to turn over. This is the part of our worship and our service, if we want to call it that, where you can take what we call a blue chip. It's just a token, a little representation of the fact that you want to surrender something. When we start meeting in person again on the 14th, obviously we're going to give those out in person. But in the meantime, we have been mailing some, so that might be an option. But if you want to surrender something and you feel comfortable doing it, you can just put your little emoji hand up in the comments, or just say, I need a blue chip. We'd love to start that journey with you on that topic or on that thing. man, we really appreciate that you guys tune in. We're going to kick it over to Justin to just kind of close us out with another worship song.
Your presence is all I am longing for. Here in the secret place, your nearness is all I'm waiting for. Here in a quiet place, here in the secret place, my soul waits for you alone, like the watchmen watch for dawn. Here I finally found the place where we'll meet, Lord, face to face. I finally found where I belong. I finally found where I belong. In your presence, I finally found where I belong. To be with you, be with you. I finally found where I belong. I finally found where I belong. In your presence, I finally found where I belong. It's to be with you. Your presence is all I am longing for. Here in the secret place, nearness is all I am waiting for. Here in the quiet place, here in the secret place, my soul waits for you alone, like the watchmen watch for dawn. Here I finally found a place where we'll meet, Lord, face to face. I finally found where I belong. I finally found where I belong. In your presence, I finally found where I belong. It's to be with you, to be with you. I finally found where I belong. I finally found where I belong. In your presence, I finally found where I belong. It's to be with you. And I am my beloved, and he is mine. So come into your garden, take delight in me. Take delight in me. I am my beloved, and he is mine. So come into your garden, take delight in me. Take delight in me. Here in your presence, Lord, I find my rest. Here in your presence, God. Here in your presence, Lord, I find my rest. Here in your presence, God.
Christ, I struggle with alcohol and lust, and my name's Gary. And I'm so stoked to be able to lead an Arkansas CR group again in the Serenity Prayer. So I know you know it, so say it with me out loud. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that you will make all things right if I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. Bye. Love you.
Gary, man, it's good to see that sunshine and water, and well, and Gary too. But gosh, you guys, have a good night. Have a good week, man. If you get a chance, take some time, pay attention to what's going on for you. See if you can engage with somebody just a little bit, right? Just a little bit. Whether it's to invite God in or whether it's to invite another human in, and we'll cover some of this next week. But start to tell your story. Start to be known and seen and validated for who you are, not just for your striving or not just hiding yourself. Man, I'm glad you guys, we get to be in this journey with you. We get to engage with you as we're all on this road together. And we're excited to also get back together and have time where we can celebrate together and be in person and around each other. So looking forward to that. Y'all have a good week.
Bye, guys.
See ya.